Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Your Mortgage Process. I, of course, am your host, Greg Wareham. I got to tell you, we're going to change things up today, and I'm really excited about today's show because it's going to focus on something that's extremely important to all of us in this country, and it's veterans and active service members. And it's a pleasure to have with us today. We have Mr. Michael Schaefer, and we have Charlene Nagel. Welcome to the show, guys.
Morning.
Hi. How you doing?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
No, thank you for having us. This is amazing.
To be here. And, you know, we were talking a little bit off camera about some different things. I just want everyone to have a little bit of background of the both of you. So, Charlene, would you mind talking a little bit about your background?
Sure. Obviously, I'm a real estate agent, but we also, my whole family's military, cops, and, you know, this is the way I give back to our service members. And I've been doing this. We started this probably about 2 Aprils ago, Mike?
Yep.
Yeah, 2 Aprils ago. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just, this is what I want to do for our mission. So make this short, sweet, simple. This is my mission.
Sure. Well, that's fantastic, Charlene. And we're going to get into it in a few minutes as to, you know, the details of some of the programs we have in place. And Mike, again, thank you for taking the time today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Navy veteran, served from 1967 to 1973. Had some wonderful experiences when I was there, and had some bad experiences while we're there, but everybody in the military has gone through some of that. I worked a number of different jobs when I get out from college. Worked for Johnson & Johnson for 10 years, worked for the people that own the San Francisco 49ers for 10 years, and then I ran the Freehold Raceway Mall as the operations manager for 14 years. Okay. So I've had 3 really good jobs and no career. So it's it was a fun way to go. And been involved with the American Legion for about 18 years now. And I have been the state chaplain for the American Legion for the last 6. And that lets me deal with 40,000 Legionnaires in the state of New Jersey.
Wow.
280 posts. And we are the largest veterans organization in the world. And for those who, you know, again, unless you're a veteran and it's something that you're dealing with, the GI Bill, which pays for a lot of education and all the VA services and all the rest of it, was literally written by a past commander of the American Legion and was voted through Congress unanimously back in the 30s, and it has served us well since then with additions.
It's fantastic.
And
it's the least that we could do for veterans, provide them with an education once they get out of the military. In the American Legion, I was reading there's 2 million members across the country.
Correct.
With about 13,000 posts throughout the world.
Correct.
And now you're the chaplain for the entire state of New Jersey.
Correct.
And now as the chaplain for people, you're a busy guy.
Yes, I am.
Yes, he is.
I mean, you were on the phone with the congressman last night.
Correct, I was.
Awesome guy.
So the American Legion, you know, what does it do for veterans and active service?
Okay. The American Legion has 4 pillars of things that they deal with. One is Americanism, where we deal with children and youth. A lot of youth programs that are, depending upon where you are and what state you're in, they're all a little different. But we have Boy State, which is held every year. It's a 10-day program that's held at Rider College. And what this does is, and it's Boy State and Girl State, it's held separately. But what it is an organization where we had over 300 young men at Boy State and about 200 young women at Girl State. And they get there on a Sunday, and when they leave the following Sunday, they run through the whole process of running the government. They start out being elected as a dog catcher, and then they have to promote themselves and others to the point where there is a state governor that's elected, there's a president and a vice president that's elected, and those people that get elected to those posts actually go to a national college where they learn about running government and what they do. And these are all absolutely incredible students who are so involved in wanting to make a difference in the country, and they're trying to get as much education as they can. And there have been 3 astronauts, 3 presidents.
Wow.
Bruce Springsteen, Michael Jordan went to Legion College.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
sure.
It's all those kind of people who, if you look at what they've done afterwards, even though they became a rock star, they're still involved with helping people.
Yeah.
They all have something that they're doing to support the community.
They all have that humanitarian aspect to them.
Correct.
And trying to give back.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
amazing. So they go to this school and they go through the whole government process.
Correct. From start to finish.
And now it's their peers that elects them.
Correct.
To move up to president or whatever the
Correct.
role is.
So they have to, they have to campaign. They have to come up with a platform. They have to convince people that they are the guy that's going to be able to take them forward. So
Wow.
it's quite a process. It's quite a process that they go through. And like I said, I do the interview process for our group that comes out of Toms River and Brick,
Okay.
where they actually have to come in, be interviewed by us about where they want to go, where they're going to school. They have to be sent to this by their guidance counselors. It's not like it's just anybody that wants to go. It has to be somebody that the school knows is looking to make a difference.
Sure.
They're probably usually the class president.
Right.
There's somebody that's already involved as the the star of the football team. That's
Yeah.
looking to get involved and stuff. So it's a core group of individuals that are highlighted at the school who want to make a difference further in their life.
And they're all high school students?
They're all
Mike?
juniors in high school.
Okay.
So now they go back to high school as juniors. Now they're seniors when they get there. And these are the people that are really going to take that senior class to the next level as far as getting involved in the community. So
That's
it's
wonderful.
an interesting program.
I get to get my two kids that are still in high school on the stick here.
Well, the thing that'll scare them even worse is the oratorical contest that we have, where you have to do 15 minutes on the Constitution.
That's fantastic. It's almost like I hear what you're saying. It should almost be required in school to go through this type of a process.
So you
have a class
understand.
on it.
They need to bring back a
Absolutely.
civics class.
They do, because what's happened is like a gap.
Right.
And I think it kind of started my generation. I'm 51. So, my dad was in that kind of Vietnam era military. My grandfather was in World War II. We were talking a little bit about that
Right.
off air. But then when you got to my age, there wasn't as big of a push into the military. And then when you get to Nick, the producer, who's in his early 30s, like it's there's a disconnect.
Right. Well, again, the Vietnam thing kind of turned a whole lot of people off to the military.
Yeah.
The whole nonsense of the war, and then how we were treated after the war.
Right.
And then, there was a 20-year lag before 9/11 when things got interesting with the military again. There was that 10, 15-year lag, that Cold War lag that was in between.
The Desert
where
Storm. I remember that.
That was 91.
Yep.
So between 73 and 91, there was really nothing that was going on. You know what I mean?
Then we had 9/11, then a lot of kids joined up after that.
Sure.
Right. So, but there was that disconnect from what we were doing and where we were going, and it was a crazy time, and it just fell out of favor.
Well,
Right.
don't forget, too, the economy was better.
Sure.
So the kids weren't going into the military to improve their life. They were going on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated in 87. It wasn't a thing to do in 87.
No, it wasn't. I'm 89.
Yeah,
It
no.
wasn't. And, you bringing up the civics class, they should have that.
They
And there
should.
should be a push at the
Absolutely.
state level, in my opinion, and probably in all of our opinions. How do you teach this? Like, do the kids even know the judicial branch, legislative branch? I don't even know if they teach that anymore.
They don't.
What
They
a
really
shame.
don't. It's really a shame.
Yeah, so there is that disconnect between what is happening and how you can get involved, either to make it better or even if you have a protest behind it, where to go to have your voice to be able to
I
do
got
that.
such a great point, Mike.
You know what I mean? I have no problem with people protesting stuff as long as you know what you're talking about
Right,
and you're bringing a good point forward. But to protest just to protest because you got nothing else to do,
right.
really doesn't solve anything for anybody. So,
So I'm sorry I got off track with everything with this 'cause it's fascinating to
Right.
me. And I know there were 4 different pillars. And
right, and
that was-
it's children and youth. It has to do with national security is a big issue with us, making sure that the military has everything that they need to function, both equipment, training, and how they move around and how they're dealt with, both families and the people who are serving, which is where the real disconnect is where we start to get involved. And then there's things that we deal with as far as the suicide thing is a big
Yeah.
deal with
That's
us.
2 veterans
and,
every day.
Well, the other thing that we neglected to mention that Mike and I are both board members for the Military Sport Alliance of New Jersey.
Okay.
And then I'm also an honorary commander for the Air Force for Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. So we're really in there, besides him being a retired veteran, we're really in there on the base still, so we can see the need
Sure.
of what's really happening.
Right.
You know, so I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't
That's
mean
all
to cut
right.
you
No,
off.
jump in anytime.
I didn't want to forget that. I thought that might be a little bit important for everybody to know.
Right. Yeah. No, it's so again, the Legion's, it's really important what they do and all the rest of it. And again, the Legion's been very, very supportive to what we've done at this. This started April 4, a year and a half ago. April 14th was our first delivery, and we've been nailing it down ever since. So
And
I
we do
actually
it
made
between-
a delivery today.
Yeah,
So-
we do it between 2 pickup trucks, and a friend of ours has a box truck.
And every once in a
That's
while,
great.
we need a box truck. So
So the audience knows when we're looking at deliveries, we're referring to the Food Warrior
Correct.
project, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Could you please talk about that?
you want to jump in there?
Well, there's a lot to say in a little bit of time.
Charlene, we got all the time in the
um,
world for this. Is that important?
Well, we do our best to raise food from we have a group of people that we collect with, or whoever wants to do collections for us. We collect the food. Mike and I like to say we pick up the food, we drop off the food. That's kind of like our little mantra,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And
Who cooks the food? You need me to cook the
no,
food?
yeah, no.
I'm in.
So, between 2 pickup trucks, we fill up all the trucks. I work, Mike's retired, so he has more time to do deliveries than I do. But Mike's there 3 to 5, 7 times a week delivering food. I probably go once a week, maybe twice a week with him because obviously I'm working. But
Right.
we have an actual warehouse on the base besides the Red Cross house itself. So, Mike, chime in. There's so much to this.
The original thing that I did when I first started doing this is the first people I reached out for when I found out there was this absolute need, and the young lady that was there didn't know one person in the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
And, if you're in New Jersey, there's this phrase that you got to have a guy.
Yeah.
We all got a guy.
I grew up in Massachusetts. I learned that one about 20 years ago when I moved down
When
there.
you come down,
Well,
when
you
you're
know
in New
what?
Jersey,
And honestly, Jersey girl here, everybody's got a guy.
Everybody's got a guy.
You got to have a guy. So I tried to explain this to Nikki, and once she realized that I was going to be her guy, then that's where it fell into. And I just reached out for a couple of local people that I knew. I reached out for a couple of local churches. I reached out for my Legion brothers and sisters and explained to them what was going on. And we just started getting donations. And I mean, I made 5 trips out to the base this week. This last week alone, we've dropped off 7 tons of food since
Wow.
last Wednesday.
Just between 2 pickup trucks.
Wow.
Yeah.
So going back to the base experience, what's a day in the life look like for someone who's active duty on the base?
Again, it depends upon what you're doing. I mean, she's an honorary commander with one of the wings, so she may be able to explain what those guys and gals are doing better than I can, because I know she's actually even taken a flight in one of their planes, so she can probably explain to you better than I can what the heck they're doing out there.
What's the day-to-day look like?
Well, the group that I'm associated with, they maintain, they're the operations division to maintain our KC-46s, the fueling jets that we have in New Jersey,
Okay.
which are replacing the KC-10s.
Okay.
And those guys are strictly in control and maintenance of that plane. I've been very fortunate enough to go visit a couple other Air Force bases. I actually got to see the stealth bombers refueled from one of the KC-10s. Yeah,
Wow.
that was amazing.
Do they do that in midair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the airman is talking to me, and I'm like, "Don't talk to me. Pay attention to the boom, because if something happens."
You were on the plane
I
while
was
they're
down
fueling it?
with the crew with the airmen, and laying on my stomach and refueling. Well,
That's amazing.
yeah, well, I was sitting right next to the airman, and he says to me, "Watch the sky." I'm like, "What am I looking for?"
Uh-huh.
Because I was told we were going to be doing like F-16s or something like that, but then one of the guys said, "Sorry, Char, we don't have the F-16s, but I got something I think you're going to like." So he says to me, "Look out there. What do you see coming?" I'm like, "I see nothing but clouds," because you're like 35 thousand
Sure.
feet in the air. It's surreal when you're looking out the window into a plexiglass that's like the size of this room. You're
Wow.
almost like standing on top of the clouds. So I'm looking, and I'm like, "There's a shelf coming at us," right?
Huh.
And he says, "Yeah, keep watching." I said, I don't want to say it out loud, but I was like, holy S, that's a bomber. That's a stealth bomber. So, of course, all the pilots hear all the recordings.
Right.
So I was just amazed. He goes, he's talking to me. I said, don't talk to me. You're lowering a boom.
Right.
We don't want anything to happen because if that thing misses, you're talking about 2 possible explosions in the air.
Oh, sure.
We take for granted what our servicemen and women do,
Yeah.
but what they do is extremely dangerous at some points. I mean, these guys are responsible for maintaining and refueling these planes for our Atlantic fleet and to protect our people
Right.
on the Atlantic side. It's extremely dangerous, and nobody really understands that.
You know, dangerous. You're taking your life in your own hands every day,
Yes,
and you couple that
yes.
with just that it's technical.
It is.
Like these are not margins of error. You know, we're doing a podcast. We say something that's not right. All right, we can
Right,
change what we're saying.
right.
They make a mistake. It's
Right.
it's a problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they're taking their lives in their hand if there's a
and
mistake
you know
made.
they're so
That's a lot
humble.
of pressure.
It is,
Yeah.
it is, and they're so humble. You know, me, I'm like, you guys have the coolest job in the world. They're
Right.
like, it's just a job. I'm like, no, it's not. You don't realize how much the civilian world appreciates what you do.
You know what? And along those lines, you know, I would look at it and say the civilian world, we all say we appreciate it. But is there a more underappreciated group? Like really?
It
When
really
you look
isn't.
at right?
What we do as honorary commanders, we go around to wherever we talk to the civilian world, especially New Jersey, because outside of Ocean and Burlington County, most counties are not aware that we have a
Right.
serious base in our state. That's very important to our national security.
Right.
So our job is to represent the base and explain to the civilian world what we're taught.
You know, and there's got to be more talking and education and things like this hopefully help. And, you know, where I was going before, like we're all appreciative of the military, but, you know, to me, appreciation is rooted in action, right? So if we're coming back to the project that you're working on right now with Food Warriors, I think people would be shocked to know that some of the people on these bases, they don't have enough food.
Right.
Yes,
and
yes.
that's where the insanity that I got involved in has progressed to where we are today. You know, she was talking about this mission and what they do. You have to realize that for that one boom operator to get that fuel nozzle into one aircraft takes like 30 people.
Right.
You got ground control people that are making sure the 2 aircraft meet in the right place
Right.
so that the guy that's looking for gas doesn't miss the tanker by 300 miles
Sure.
and runs out.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so you got a couple, 3, 4, 5 people on the ground that are making sure that they get together. You know, then you have the pilot of the aircraft, you have the crew on the tanker, you have other people that are involved as far as AWACS planes that are making sure that there aren't any other aircraft in the area that could impact this operation. So there's a lot of people that are
Huge
involved,
logistics involved
right,
with
in
it.
this one scenario.
Right.
And when I approached the folks to talk about the military is really big on scenarios.
Okay.
They like to run it, you know, a possibility.
Yeah.
And I said, if one of these people is not paying attention 100% because he got a call from his wife this morning that she can't feed his kids,
Yeah.
you're going to have a problem.
Right.
And that was the end of the conversation.
Right.
And since that point, we've been given free and easy access, you know, to make this happen with making sure that we get food to these folks.
Now,
you
Mike,
know?
how did you get involved in it?
Like I said, I walked in cold, and she told me that she didn't have any food, and I told her that this is not going to happen on my watch.
Right.
You're going to have food. You're going to feed everybody. We've never, ever missed one day in a year and a half where we haven't had food for people, and we're just going to continue that project. And you have to realize some of the things that we've seen when it comes to people that are coming in to get food. First of all, they're coming in uniform.
Right.
These are people who are standing proud. They're standing for their country. They're going out there every day, putting their lives on the line, and they have to humbly come in to a pantry to grab a box of pancake mix to feed their kids.
Ah.
It's
heartbreaking.
Should never
criminal.
happen. It is criminal.
It's
It's
absolutely
criminal.
heartbreaking.
And then you have the situation where now you have whichever one of the spouses is the active duty person, they get deployed. So now the mom, if she gets deployed, or the dad, if he gets deployed, now they're alone on the base for 90 days minimum, and they have to deal with that issue. And that's where that phone call comes in while he's in the air in Dubai
Right.
refueling a jet. And you know that he loses focus, even for that
How could you not?
Yeah.
half a
Yep.
second,
Right.
and there's nothing you can do about it from there.
Right.
We just wanted to make sure that she never made that phone call.
Right.
That's my goal, is to make sure that that phone call never gets made, and we never put that whole flight crew, that whole mission in jeopardy, because you have to realize it's not just that one plane they're refueling. They get deployed, they could be refueling 20, 30 planes in a day.
Sure.
So there's that many opportunities for a mistake.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I've seen. First, I want to explain I have really, really bad PTSD, so I might not get through some of this stuff.
Sure.
So I'm warning you. I'm warning you right up front that may happen, and my wife's going to go, yeah, it's going to happen.
Mike, I want you to tell them the story about what happened with the little kid with the birthday cake.
That's where I was going. On Wednesdays, we get stuff in from Costco, and so I go out to a car. We're loading stuff in the car for a mom, and there's 5 kids in the car. And just mom. So I'm figuring dad is off someplace. He's probably working a flight line or he's deployed.
Sure.
So I stuck my head in the car and I said, has anybody got a birthday coming up? Because we had gotten some birthday cakes that day. And the kid in the back goes, it was my birthday last week, but mom didn't have any money for a cake.
Wow. It's heartbreaking.
How can you?
It's heartbreaking.
It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't.
Needless to say, I went in and got a cake and came back outside and gave him a cake, and we all cried together, and we've all prayed together. And I know that night they went home and this kid had a birthday cake. It was one of those huge 27 people birthday cakes,
Right.
so they ate it for a couple of days, but he had a birthday cake that night.
And
there's a number of those. I mean, we had a woman pull up one day, kids in the car, crying. And I'm going, Mom, we will bring you whatever you want. I'll get you 27 bags of groceries. Whatever you need, we will get to you. She says, well, I couldn't get here last week because I didn't have any money to put gas in the car.
it is a crisis.
So now we
criminal.
have
Which is why we-
$25 gift cards.
Right.
Right.
That's why we started collecting the gift and doing the gift cards.
So now, if they need a gift card to be able to buy fuel so that they can get
And
gas so they can get to the
See,
food
that
pantry.
to
And these
me
are-
is unacceptable.
No, these are basic
Yes.
human needs.
Yes.
Yes.
For people that are protecting our country.
That you and I
Yep.
take for
That
granted.
we all take
Yeah.
for granted,
Mhm.
right?
Right. Yep.
And and then I'm thinking right away we're getting towards the holiday season. Right immediately, Thanksgiving pops into my head.
Oh.
Christmas pops
Oh,
into
we're
my
good
head.
for Thanksgiving.
We're good for
Yep.
Thanksgiving.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, we nailed Thanksgiving. And we nailed Thanksgiving and Christmas last year
Yes,
because
we
that was our
did.
first Thanksgiving and Christmas. And we nailed Thanksgiving and Christmas again this year. Just this week, 7, 8, 9, 10, we put together 150 bags.
Wow, that's
Okay.
fantastic.
And it has everything in that bag for a Thanksgiving meal. You have to prepare it,
Mhm.
down to the cream of chicken soup and the string beans and the fried onion rings to make your string bean casserole.
Uh-huh.
When
Every
we-
single thing.
When we first started going to ShopRite and all that to buy the food,
Uh-huh.
they're like, "What do you need 100 cans of
Fried onion
beans
rings.
for? Fried onion ring for?" Yeah.
So everything's in that bag, and they get a voucher to take to the commissary to get their turkey whenever they want it. And
Right.
we don't have any place to store frozen turkeys.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we
tell
deal
every-
with the commissary, and they sold us 150 turkeys. I don't know if you guys have been out shopping and find out that turkey prices have
They've
gone
gone
up a little
Yeah.
bit.
Sure.
They gave us 150 turkeys for $7 a piece,
Okay. That's great.
which is a deal,
Yeah, sure.
which is a real deal. And the commissary has been
You mi-
amazing.
You might have to tell everybody, Mike, what the commissary is. I don't know if
The
everybody.
commissary is
realizes
the
what it
grocery
is.
store on the base.
Right.
If you walked into a ShopRite or a Stop and Shop, this is twice as big as that. This is a
Okay.
huge store where you can buy everything. I mean, they got the sushi bar. They have all the sandwich stuff. They just like if you were walking into a Wegmans or a Whole Foods, they
Uh-huh.
got everything you could possibly want. And that's where the folks who live on the base shop.
Sure.
And I went and spoke to the store manager and explained to him what we were doing. And now I went through the store, got all the SKUs off the items that I wanted,
Mhm.
printed out a spreadsheet, I want 2 cases of this, 3 cases of that, 4 cases of that. I give them the list. They call me when it's full. Tuesday, I went over and picked it up. The list this week was $3,100 worth of food that we took over to the pantry to make sure that everything is full, because
Sure.
we get a situation where we get pancake mix, but nobody gives you breakfast syrup.
Right.
Pancakes are pretty boring without syrup.
They're terrible.
Right.
It tastes like cardboard.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And you have a situation where you get peanut butter, but nobody donates
Nobody's
jelly.
jelly.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we don't get salad
Another sin.
dressing or mayo
Yeah.
or mustard or any of the condiments.
It's a lot of
Nobody.
the
Sure.
condiments that we're missing that people don't think about.
Right.
You know?
You know what I mean? And when people ask, what do you want? I said, look in your pantry. Open your refrigerator. What do you use every day?
Right.
That's what we need.
The
The-
one thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, jump in.
The one thing that we always do tell everybody, we have to make sure it's non-perishable food.
Makes
Yeah, we
sense.
got no
and
place
it's
to store
not
anything.
expired.
Right.
You know, because I've had a couple organizations saying, well, if it's a certain amount of expired, I said, guys, this is our military. Do you really give these people expired food? You want
Well,
to show them how much you appreciate them.
Right.
Right. We have an agreement with the military that we will not
Yes.
serve anything.
Why
that's-
should they ever have to eat anything expired? It's
Exactly.
ridiculous.
Well, I've had some MREs from World War II, so I'll tell you, they got no problem hanging on to old food. So no, but we don't use those. But I know they're still kicking around someplace. But no, the whole idea of the food thing is just grown exponentially. And when you see the Tuesday, I'm walking into the house and there's this woman walking in. I guess the young boy she was with was maybe 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
You know, he comes into the house. He runs into where the food stuff is. He grabs a little bag of potato chips and a breakfast syrup, and he goes out. We have a little area where the kids can hang out, and there's coloring books and crayons and stuff that they can take with them when they're done.
Right.
So mom can shop, and there's a volunteer that hangs out with them, and they'll do puzzles and stuff while mom is shopping, so they don't have to worry about them running around in this building. And it's just that kind of thing where we're trying to make it as easy for them as we possibly can. And he grabbed that maple syrup and the potato chips and went over and sat down.
That's all you need.
He was good to go. He didn't care about what else he wanted, but they must have had bad pancake experience that morning, and he was not going to let that happen
Hey.
again.
Don't knock potato chips and syrup until you tried it. There you go.
Exactly.
So it was good. It was
That's
good.
great.
And it's great seeing the change in people from when they're walking in to when they're walking out,
Right.
knowing that tonight they're going to eat. You know, we're open 3 days a week from 9 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
They can come every week. They can only come once a week,
Okay.
but they can come every week if they want to come in, and they shop and take whatever they need. And all we do is weigh it, because we track every single thing that comes in gets weighed. Every single thing that goes out gets weighed. So we have some kind of idea of what kind of inventory we
Sure.
still
No, it makes
Well,
sense.
I
have in the warehouse.
Mike,
you know?
I can tell you, Greg is a stat guy.
I am a stat guy.
Stat guy.
I'm a
So
numbers guy.
go give him the numbers.
We're going to peruse through this on our break.
Exactly.
So we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back
Okay.
at you. Greg Wareham, we have Mike Schaefer, Charnene Nagel. This is fantastic. We'll be right back at you, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks. Well, welcome back, everybody. Again, Greg Wareham here. We have Mike Schaefer. We have Charlene Nagel. Charlene, how'd I do that time?
did it.
She corrected me at the
Awesome.
break. I pronounced her name incorrectly.
No biggie.
So I just want everyone to understand the magnitude of what we're trying to do with the Food Warriors Project. The base requires 4,000 pounds of food per day. Is
Per
that
week.
correct? Per week. I'm
Per
sorry.
week.
It's 4,000 pounds of food per week. I mean, that's a lot of food.
Yes, it is.
For our particular mission.
For
not the
our
whole
mission,
base,
right?
yeah.
For our mission, that's 4,000 pounds of food to try
That
to
we give
feed
away.
people per week. Wow, and we've been doing this for 2 years now, correct?
Yep.
Just about
Started
2
April
years?
14th, a year and a half ago. So we're into our, this April will be our
Yeah.
second year anniversary.
Now, as you got everything up and running, Mike, and you took this project on, who are some of the other organizations that jumped on to try to help?
Well, I have to say, I was a board member with the MSA
Mhm.
before this whole thing started.
And what's the MSA? So people know?
Military Support Alliance. The New Jersey Military Support Alliance originally was the Ocean County Military Support Alliance, and there's another organization in Burlington County that has the same focus. What happened was, and I don't, again, I'm going to start talking about stuff that people might not recognize some of the acronyms. When the BRAC came through, which was the base realignment, when we lost Fort Monmouth in New
Yes.
Jersey.
Yes.
Okay. When that happened, Burlington County and Ocean County professionals, these are people that own their own businesses. These are retired folks who were in corporate world, who understood how important the base was to New Jersey.
Right.
Aside from its military importance, it generates like $3 billion worth of income for New Jersey.
Wow.
There's 52,000 people that work there.
Wow.
All those salaries, all those rents, all those mortgages that they're paying, all those cars they're driving
Sure.
and gas they're buying is all income that's generated in New
They're the
Jersey.
first or second top. Is it the first or the second in the top for the salaries statewide?
Oh, it's number one.
Yeah.
Number one.
It's the number one employer in the state.
And it's the biggest land base in the country.
In the country.
Yes.
Wow. People aren't even aware.
Right. Now, do you want to lose that in the next BRAC? Absolutely not.
No.
Because the military is always looking to
Yeah.
thin things down and quiet it down. Do we already have a better place we can do this?
Right.
So what these folks did when they got together was the Air Force and all military, if you're being transferred from McGuire to go to your next duty station, they have an exit interview, just like a lot of big corporations have. If you leave, why you're leaving, where you're going, what were the goods, what were the bads,
Sure.
what that situation was. So there's a scorecard when you leave that you have to fill out concerning the base. McGuire is the base commander that's there now. This is his third tour. He loves the place.
Right.
And
Amazing guy.
a lot of people who come back, this is their second and third tour there
Okay.
because they love the base. The problem is where the base is sucks.
It's not an ideal location.
No.
Right.
Right.
You can take that. But what I'm saying is there's nothing to do there.
Right.
If you're a young airman who's 22, 23 years old, you're from Kansas, and you get transferred to McGuire Air Force Base, there's no public transportation. There's no place to go unless you've got
Right.
a car. And even if you do have a car, where the hell do you go? I mean, there's just
Yeah.
nothing out there.
Right.
So with this scorecard, that was one of the things that came up where this was an issue for a lot of the folks that were out there.
That makes sense.
Dana Lancelotti was the Ocean County Tourism Director, and she was also an honorary commander on the base and very involved in the base. And we would do events out there, and she would hand out all the Ocean County, what to do, where to go, how to find it,
Sure.
so that people would know where to go if they wanted to go to the Jersey Shore. Where would you want to go to do that? Or the mountains, or if you wanted to go skiing. There's a lot of people that come here that don't realize in the wintertime you can ski in New
Yeah.
Jersey.
Yeah.
And in the summertime, there's a lot of places to
Beach
swim.
is beautiful.
Right, exactly, because you have all of that here. So her job was at the base where she was explaining this to everybody and making sure that when people got transferred in as part of the package that they got one of these Ocean County guides of what was going on so that people knew what was going on and, how to get to Philadelphia to go to a museum.
Right.
How would you get transportation to go to New York to see a play?
Yeah,
So all that kind of stuff.
and that's a great point because if you know what you're doing, this is a great area to be
Oh,
in.
yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah.
if
But you just
don't
need to know where you're going. To your
Right.
point, if you came in from Kansas, you're like, where did they drop me?
And they don't realize they're
you're not, you're not in Kansas anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And they don't realize they're literally within an hour of everything.
Yeah.
Manhattan, Philly,
Yeah.
the shore, everything.
Baltimore, Washington. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a
Everything.
lot of stuff to do here.
Sure.
But if you don't know how to get there and what it is and how long it's going to take you to get there and all the rest of it. So that's what she was doing. And then when there's a lot of other people that are involved in stuff around the base. We have people who are on the state highway commission. We have people who deal with local municipalities because what the base is trying to do, there's a lot of people who live near the base. And because there's big, giant aircraft taking off all the time,
Right.
there's a lot of noise, 24/7, 365.
Sure.
And people complain. And that's understandable, except the base was there before you
Yeah.
moved there. So
It's like
You know what I
buying a
mean?
house next to a farm and then complaining about the
about the smell
cows.
of cows. You know what I mean? So, so what they're trying to do is making sure that if somebody puts a house up for sale within X amount of miles of the base, that the base wants to buy it.
Okay.
They want that piece of property, so they eliminate that
that issue.
potential
Sure.
complaint. You know what I mean? So there are people who get involved in that, both at county level in both counties, to make sure if they see something coming up that's for sale, you know, the military would almost like the first right of refusal.
Yeah,
You
makes
know what I
sense.
mean? So that they can get that property off of the complaint list.
And that's another whole problem for the military is housing supply.
Right. There is none out there.
Right.
So if you wanted to live off base, there's no place to
Yeah.
live. Where are you going to live? I mean, I don't know if you've ever been through that area, but
There's
is
nothing there.
Well,
Yeah.
and you know what? Honestly, part of the need for food is, you know, the young airmen, the ladies, they don't make enough money even for housing in New Jersey.
Right.
Who can live on $35,000 a year with a family in New Jersey and
Nobody.
afford a house? Nobody.
Nobody can in this state. It's too
Nobody.
expensive.
This is why they have such food insecurity and housing insecurity.
Right.
What really made this incredibly difficult for everybody, which really brought it to the forefront, which really got me involved critically, was COVID.
Okay.
If you had a job off base, if you lived off base, and you wanted to go home to your wife and kids, you couldn't leave.
Wow.
If you left, you couldn't come back on base for 2 weeks after you were quarantined.
Right.
So if you're an active duty person that's refueling aircraft or doing maintenance on aircraft, you can't go home
Wow.
for a year. If you lived on the base with your family in base housing and your wife or your husband had a job, depending upon who the civilian was, you couldn't go to work
Right.
because you weren't allowed back on the base.
Which
You know-
brought them down in their salaries.
You know, that's just, again, people don't know this.
They see the civilian world, and myself included.
Yeah.
And Mike is a Vietnam vet, so he knows a lot more than I do. But the civilian world has no clue the sacrifice that not only the servicemen and women make, their families make.
Sure.
It's tremendous. The children, the kids, everybody.
Wow. Another incredible sacrifice by our
Right. It just made...
because that was just that's one location.
Right.
Now
That
you're
just
looking at the
compounded it.
1.4 million service people in this country.
You know what I mean? It just compounded the situation.
Yeah, that's you know, again, it's something that people wouldn't even know, and a continued sacrifice by our military. Now, what is Magic Tent?
Okay. Mike so lovingly nicknamed our tent the Magic Tent. It's magic because we can make money appear for our people when we go out to the public. We take this 10 by 10 silly lime green tent around to different like wine festivals. You know, we'll stand in front of stores. There's been a lot of stores that have been very gracious to let us, you know, take the day right in front of their store and make collections, and then they understand why. So I tell them that they're technically doing their part for the military too by allowing us to do this. And this is our way, and Mike included. Mike's so humble about it, but he's there helping me talk to the public about what's going on too. To to let the public, we inform the public, and I'll tell you what, it's the same psychological steps every single time. And I got to try not to get emotional about this because I get very emotional when I'm talking about it. First of all, people are shocked that there is a need to feed our people.
Right.
Then they're pissed off. Then they cry because they're, you know, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but then they question why this is happening. And then, you know, everybody wants to give. Everybody will put $1 in. You know, they don't care what they're giving for. Most people are very generous.
Right.
But I go, wait. Let me tell you what this is really for. And then I explain the details about the food insecurities for our, you know, our active duty and our reserve servicemen and women. And then they go back in their pockets and they'll give me $50 bills, $100 bills. And they're like, how can I volunteer? How can I collect? How can I do this for you? You know, who can I talk to? It's all about us talking to the public.
Yeah.
You know, and even if they don't give $1, I go, here, take one of our flyers. Just spread the word for us. I'm getting goosebumps because I've seen so many people. Like one story, you know, Ocean County has the largest retired veterans in the country. I don't know if anybody knows
I did not
that.
know
Ocean
that.
County is the largest veteran population in the country. We have 40,000 veterans in Ocean County.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
So they understand the need.
So about every third person that you see in a shopping center
It's a
is
vet.
a vet,
It's a vet.
or a family of a vet.
Okay.
You know what I
Wow.
mean? That's how
So-
many of us are banging around here in Ocean County.
So we use this quote unquote magic tent to share our awareness to the public, no matter where we go. That's why we call it the magic
and
tent.
you know what? So I've learned so much today in this conversation, and it's not that people don't care; they don't know.
They don't know.
They
Exactly.
just don't know.
Now, the other problem that happens is we'll get, which of course she hands off to me immediately, is the guy that wants to go off on the federal government, and they want to go off on how come this is happening and why aren't they taking care of their people.
Because Mike just has such a classy way of kind of diverting
You know
their
what I mean?
attention.
And I think it's something people need to be made aware of, is it's not a federal
No.
government problem.
No, it's
Okay.
I
not.
know that sounds really weird,
Yeah, talk about that.
but
Mike.
it's not.
Okay.
Because here's what's happened. You're a young airman and you're stationed in California,
Mm-hmm.
single. You meet somebody and she's a teacher. You're out there for a couple of years. You get married. And you decide that you want to make the Air Force a career.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to get a promotion in the Air Force is to take a transfer.
Okay.
You can't just stay in San Diego for 20 years. They're not going to let you do that.
Right.
You got to go to Alaska.
Even though people would want to.
Right. You got to go to
Yeah.
Alaska. You got to go to Iceland.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to go to Texas. You got to go to Germany. You got to
Right.
go someplace else, not only to learn other skills, but get an experience from someplace else. So
That
if you have
makes
a
sense.
situation where you have to go there because there's a military issue, that you're familiar with the area.
Yeah.
So you get transferred to McGuire Air Force Base. 135 professional licenses are non-reciprocal in any state in the country.
Wow.
So
There's a
your wife, who
serious
was
reciprocity
making
issue.
$70,000 a year as a teacher, comes to New Jersey, her teaching license is no good.
So what are you supposed to do? That's insane.
Right.
That's part of
Okay.
the problem.
And it's
It's
not-
no different curriculum
and it's-
here than
right,
it is there.
right.
It's
Is
not-
it a union thing?
Bingo.
Yeah.
The light comes on.
You could see how that could
Yeah. So
be
that
difficult.
that turns into a real big problem. So now you're going to get off base, and now instead of making $80,000 a year, you're working at Wawa.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're certainly not making the same amount of money you were making before. And people say, well, the military, they get this, they get that. They have to make a car payment.
Yeah.
They got to
Yeah.
pay the insurance on their car. You know what I mean? That stuff doesn't come with that. And you don't get any more money
No.
if you have children. It's not like they raise your salary. I mean,
Right.
in a civilian world, if you have kids, they don't raise your salary if you have kids.
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure out how to make that same dollar stretch.
Sure.
And now you're doing that on a military salary, where the same exact job in a civilian job pays minimum twice as much money.
Right.
You know what I mean? A commercial airline pilot is making a whole lot more money than a guy flying a tanker.
Which is hard to believe to me.
Yeah, and you know what? It really speaks even more to the commitment and the passion if you want to grow within the military. I mean, the sacrifice that
Yes.
you're willing to make to follow that path, that's a selfless path in and of itself, right?
Right.
Because it's not, you go into the police force, you go in the fire department, it's, you can make more money.
Right.
Right.
You can move up, make more money, and do different things. And it's just much more difficult in the military. And it's the ultimate civil service type of profession.
Right.
It is because, I've met so many people who are in their 26, 39 years, all doing this, and they're transferring
Yeah.
how many times? Dozens and dozens of times. And they've all raised families.
I mean,
Right.
I've met guys who've been transferred 12 times in 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
How do you keep your kids in school? How do you maintain any kind of relationship
Right.
with any kind of friendship with your next door neighbor, knowing that tomorrow they're going to be gone or you're going to be gone,
Right.
off to the
Yeah.
next duty station.
When you have kids, just the ability to have that core family value so strong that it can absorb the transfer after transfer after transfer. Because like in the real world, that doesn't happen.
No.
You can't bounce your kids around like that. Everyone will
And
go
these
crazy.
kids are very resilient.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, I
That's
had-
amazing.
Last Christmas, I'm dealing with the First Sergeants Association on the base, and I'm dropping off food. And Sergeant Craven was an amazing individual. And he comes up to me and he says, Mike, I got a problem with a family, 2 families. I said, okay, what's up? How can I help? He goes, this was like a week before Christmas. And he goes, they just got transferred in. Their personal effects haven't arrived yet. Because of this guy's MOS, what his job was, he's been transferred almost every year for the last 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
The family has never had a Christmas tree.
Wow.
Never had a Christmas tree in her house. He says, can you buy a couple of Christmas trees? Well, that was a pretty silly question. So, of
How
course, I
many?
can buy Christmas
Yeah.
trees. And they were actually, they sold Christmas trees on the base, and it was a fundraiser for the First Sergeants Association. So we went over there and bought a Christmas tree, and he also didn't have any toys. And at that point, I had about $30,000 worth of toys that had been donated. So we were making sure that they had toys. And what they did was, and again, this association comes up, they came up with some beds for them to sleep in, and they came up with a couple of sofas and chairs and a TV till their personal effects arrived. And they had talked to the dad, and they gave him money to take the family out to get something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
They went in, put up the tree, decorated it, put the presents underneath so that when these kids come back, Santa Claus had been to the house. And they had
amazing.
never had a tree before. You know what I mean?
I do.
That's just,
I do.
it's insane.
It is.
It's
Can I just
insane,
say
the
something?
commitment that they make and the sacrifices that they make, and the fact that it's not just the warrior,
Right.
it's the entire family. And they do it without question. And, you're talking about families that are third and fourth generation that just sign right up. They get 18 years old and they sign up with dad. I mean, there was a thing about one of the guys who's flying these tankers that's now flying with his son on the same freaking plane.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean?
I do.
Because of that, that's what they do.
Right.
That's their job, and they've lived it. They understand it. They get it. They know how important it is. And the guy that's, selling gas right outside the base has no clue what those people are going through to make sure that we don't have a problem here anymore. It's incredible what they do.
It sure is.
I bless them every day. You know what I mean? It's
And I have to say, I am so honored to know my friend. I mean, he does just amazing things.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the education that I have gotten off of him
Mm-hmm.
and our other friend, Ralph Wolf,
Mm-hmm.
I cannot thank these people enough, which is why I personally do this for these guys. But to know him and know what he's done for our country and know what he continues to do for our country, the education that I get off of these people is incredible. We cannot do enough for these people.
Right.
We don't do enough for these people.
so
This
here's
is
what
why-
we need.
Yes, thank you.
What
need
do
money.
need, Mike? Okay.
Yes.
It's just that simple.
How do people donate? What do we do?
There are a couple places they can go to. The MSA, New Jersey MSA, has a website, which is
And that's Military Support Alliance.
Yes,
Right.
yes. This is who sponsors us.
Okay.
that's who is carrying the that's where the treasurer is. That's where the president is.
Mhm.
Those are the guys that are handling the back of house stuff. So that's what we do. And the MSA stepped up. They were the first people on April 14th, a year and a half ago, to make a $2,000
Yes, they were.
donation. They were the very first people, because I talked to them about, that's when I found out about the gas issue,
Yeah.
and they gave me $2,000 worth of $25 gift cards.
That's great.
You know what I mean? To get that, that's off the table now. What else you got to get going? And then again, it's been the Elks. The Toms River Elks have been absolutely incredible. I get a truckload of stuff out of them every other week. They call me, I go pick it up, I give them a list of what I need. I go there, I load the back of the truck, I deliver it to the base.
Gino's awesome. Gino and Dana are just
Right.
They're so supportive of us.
The VFW and Brick, absolutely outstanding. Again, $1,500 donation. The Moose have been incredible. The
JB's 57 Diner.
right
They
has
always
been
let us,
incredible.
So we're talking a little bit off air about the kids. Tell me what the kids did.
Here's what happened. American Legion Post 502 in Jackson, and Commander Barry was very interested in getting involved in this program, like a lot of American Legion Posts are. I'm getting stuff from American Legion Posts all over the state. Instead of doing something with his post, he reached out for the Krista McAuliffe Middle School in Jackson.
Okay.
And talked to an advisor over there, and they did a food drive for the base. Now, you have to understand, some of the kids that go to this school are children of kids of families that are working on the base.
Okay.
Did they get it? Yeah, they got it. We went over there the other day. They said, we have a donation for you.
Yeah.
And what they did, they sent us a photo of the stage in their cafeteria area, which is also their auditorium. They had a American flag on the wall. They had a silhouette of a warrior with a weapon. And they had all the food covered up with a camouflage net.
Okay.
We show up at the school. These are 6th grade kids
Okay.
on the stage, not involved in a video game, not being excited over something about themselves. They raised 1,365 pounds of food and loaded the truck.
Oh, they loaded the truck for us. I almost felt it was.
They were physically
wonderful.
able to,
Oh my
even
gosh.
after all the video game
It
was?
was wonderful.
Exactly. They're out
that's
there
wonderful.
loading the trucks, putting everything in the truck, knowing exactly where it was going, because some of those kids' families work on the base.
And it was
Oh, that's
wonderful
amazing.
because to see their faces, they were so proud
Excited.
of themselves and excited about this.
Right.
I had some kids asking me about the base. All sorts of questions that a normal 6th grader would not ask.
Right.
Victoria Hay. Thank you, Victoria.
Yeah, thank you, Victoria.
Hay
Good job,
was
Victoria.
the counselor for that 6th grade class, and she was amazing. And what they did at that school was incredible, and it would have been a shame if we left out the point that these were kids
Right.
helping kids.
Yes.
It doesn't get
Any better
any
than
better
that?
than
No.
that.
Well, you know what? Another thing I think that's important for people to know, and you both are way too humble to talk about this off air. You're volunteers. You pay for
Oh,
your
yeah.
own gas. You pay for everything
Correct.
out of pocket. 100%. 100% of the donation goes to our active duty military to feed them
And reserve.
in
And
reserve.
What's really cool, we're 501c3. This costs you nothing. You can write this right off on your taxes.
Yep.
Right. We'll get this all posted out there again online. You want to go to militarysupportalliance.org. This is feeding our active military,
And
our
our
reserve members, and it's 100%. 100% is going to go directly towards
And
these folks.
here's all the spreadsheets. I'll share them with anybody that wants to see them. I can
We
show
went
you
through them in detail.
We're
Right.
very
I'm
transparent.
analytical.
We are very
every
transparent.
single dollar
though.
in, every
Yeah,
single
no,
dollar
I-
out. I got every single receipt, every deposit ticket.
We are very
I am-
transparent.
No, and I know that. And Mike came in with his clipboard today. He's got everything. So with all of this, I have to say this has been one of my favorite conversations that we've had on the show. And you're by far the most passionate people in the cause that you're working towards. I mean, it's just amazing. The most passionate people I've seen in this. It's a pleasure. I thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you
I
for having
love the
us, Greg.
platform. You know, if this gets $100 donation,
It was
Right.
worth every penny.
right?
Well, if anyone has any questions, could they reach out to you directly?
Sure.
Charlene?
Sure. My name and number is on the card. It's Charlene Nigel, 732-569-4885.
Didn't she say Charlene?
She said Charlotte. Just say
know she did.
Nagel.
I'm not a toothpaste. And then there's Chaplain Mike Schaefer.
Yeah.
And you're going to read
Chaplain
his number.
Mike Schaefer. And Mike can be reached. His cell phone number is area code 732-685-7768. And again, you can go online at militarysupportalliance.org to make a donation. 100% of the donation goes to feed our military.
Yes.
And it's tax deductible.
And it's tax deductible. Thank you so much, Mike Schaefer, Charlene, Nigel. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And thank you, everyone, for listening out there.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much for
Yep.
having us, Greg. I really appreciate it.
Really
No,
appreciate
it's our pleasure, and I hope everyone listened to the show in detail and how important this cause is. and they get the checkbook out because they should. Every one of us should be thankful for what you're doing, for what our military is doing, and get your checkbook out and let's try to make a difference. I thank you everyone for listening this week as well. Again, this is Greg from Your Mortgage Process. Look forward to catching up with you next week. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Your Mortgage Process, hosted by Greg Wareham, produced by Greg Wareham and Nick Pavis at The Social Rift, and executively produced by The Social Rift. Thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.